Talk with ReZsaun.
3.
Hello, world. Welcome to the first webisode of Real Talk with ReZsaun, where nothing's off limits. I am your host, ReZsaun Lewis. Here on Real Talk, everything is debatable. So on any given week, we can be discussing anything from music to sports to politics. You name it, we'll debate it. First, I'd like to introduce the panel for this week. To my immediate left, I have Mr. Ricardo Lewis, also known as Mr. Blazing Cuts, a fantastic barber, and also a rapper and a poet and a writer, actually. So you may be seeing a whole lot of him in the future. Next to him, we have Mr. Dominic Waring. He's also a writer. He's a singer and entertainer, and working on so many other things I really don't know what else to say about him. But he's a very entertaining young man, and I look to see much from him in the future. And to his left, we also have Brian Sewell. He is a poet, an amazing poet, if I must say so myself. And he's also a sales associate. I'd just like to thank all you gentlemen for being here today and making this show very possible for me. Today, in honor of Martin Luther King Day, we will be having a discussion about how society has changed since Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination on April 4th, 1968. I decided to talk to my children about Martin Luther King Jr. and find out what they learned in school about the civil rights movement. The only thing that one of my daughters could tell me was that he had a dream. They didn't know what the dream was about or if it was something that was just made up in school. Another one of my daughters knew that he wrote speeches, but she didn't know why. I think this is a problem that we as parents must correct. But I want to open it up to the panel. Ricardo, what do you say, what comes to mind when you think of Martin Luther King Jr.?
A great vision for America that was equal for everybody. A leader, someone who would rally the troops, ready to put himself on the front line in a non-violent way, a historical figure, someone that we can all aspire to be.
What about you, Dominic?
When I think about Martin Luther King Jr., I think about a person who stood up for equal rights for black people as well as white people, everybody. Someone who thought that, who took the stand and for America is for everybody to be, how can you say this, equal people. So that I won't be limited from having the same ability or learning ability as the next person, and that everybody would be treated equally. That's what I think about it.
And Brian?
I think he was a man that saw the world needed change, and he made it his personal quest to go out and change the world and try to make it a better place. He tried to just let everybody be seen as equal and not as a lesser person or a lesser being. So he was a great man.
Okay, most definitely. Like I was saying, when I spoke to my kids, it brought some things in my mind that I don't believe that it's not enough being said about the civil rights movement. And children aren't learning about that in history class. They're not learning about people being chased by German shepherds and being shot with water hoses, and the depictions that are really being put out there, that were really out there that time, that we really don't understand unless we've lived through it with those people. If they knew those things, they may have a little bit more respect for the elders than the younger generation does right now. Dominic, you went to school later than probably the rest of us did. Would you say that you received a sufficient amount of education about the civil rights movement while you were in school?
I don't believe I received a significant amount about it. I mean, we learned just a little bit. Like, they touched on bases. Like, they give a month to talk about it. They don't really give a big depth of information on the civil rights movement. Like, we learn bits and pieces, and like around this time in school, they'll give like projects to talk about Martin Luther King, what you thought, like, but they never really went into detail about what he did on his everyday basis. Like, they just gave like the surface of what was going on, but they really didn't let you go into depth. You probably would have to go home and study about it, but as teenagers, you really don't want to go and look into stuff like that. But as I got older, I went and researched and looked into things like that. But in school, you really get to learn about a lot of that.
Well, Brian, what do you remember from your civil rights when you were in school, as far as what they taught you?
They really did reach on it. They really did, But in school, I believe that a lot of the harsh truths about what went on really wasn't touched on. Schools tend to make things pretty. They try to pretty things up a little bit and not really tell the truth about it. So, I mean, we were taught about it, but not as in depth as I think we should have been, in my opinion.
Ricardo, now I know you're a very well-read individual. Um, you probably have read a lot more about this subject than I have. Um, what would you say that the schools are leaving out when they're addressing the issue of civil rights?
The struggle. Mostly, I feel they leave out the struggle. Like, people don't really understand what people had to really go through back during the civil rights movement, so it's harder to appreciate it because you don't really get the full value of it. Like, you know what I'm saying? In my travels and reading, I read a lot about it, and I could kind of get just a small understanding of what they had to go through. Like Martin Luther King, the letter he wrote from the jail cell, and you know what I'm saying? A lot of the other stuff they had going on, like the students getting the drinks poured on their head at the sit-ins and stuff like that. People don't they don't put that out there because that's not advertisable, you know what I'm saying? That's not acceptable for society to look at, I guess, in they terms. So they don't put it out there. They want our kids to see the aftermath of how everything is just so good and everybody holding their hand, but they don't let everybody see what happened in order for it to get there. You know what I'm saying? And I feel that's something they need to put inside school, the struggle, you know? The struggle about, they don't tell you about Mega Evers who got shot in his front yard, the NAACP volunteer. They don't tell you about Emmett Till. They don't tell you about nothing. They really don't tell you about anything. They don't tell you the reason why they marched from Selma to Montgomery or whatever. They don't tell you the reason why they did that. They don't really tell you about that. Only person you really hear about is Martin Luther King. They don't tell you about Malcolm X. They don't tell you about nobody, you know. So they don't tell you about the struggle, and they don't tell you about certain people who contributed to the struggle.
And that makes me think about something. You know how I always hear that that the olden times are such a more innocent time. They say but if you think about it, back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s, blacks, Hispanics, Asians were really looked upon as lesser people. Like now, it's there's a certain level of discrimination, but it was really outwardly known that those people were less than the Caucasians or the whites. Now, to me, that's pretty insulting that they consider that to be, a more innocent time, a time of innocence. Now, how that makes things any better, I don't understand. So, what I would like to ask is, have any of you actually gotten to sit down with an older person and find out what it was like during that period of time for them?
Yeah. I had the opportunity to sit with a bunch of older fellas, like, 60s and 70s, and speak to them about the old days and how it was, like the different water fountains and stuff like that, the second class living basically, and some of them really wasn't during segregation, but you gotta understand that after segregation ended, it was still segregated for the most part, and regular living, even though you knew you could have went through that door, you just didn't go through that door, you know what I'm saying? And that's different, like that's a life I can never imagine myself living, and I'm telling you, man, just from talking to a bunch of them old folks, I do just like sympathize with that second class living. I just can't do it. I couldn't do it.
Right.
Well,
And with that being said, I think the past has been dredged on enough right now. I'd like to talk about the present. What do you see right now, as far as equality in America? Do you think that things are equal as far as the treatment of blacks, Asians, Hispanics, and Caucasians? Do you think it's all above board and the same, or do you think that there are certain differences that are out there? I'll start with you, Ricardo.
actually, I think the playing field has been kind of leveled out. And right now, this is a land of opportunity. As light as people take it, everybody got the option and the opportunity to do something with themselves. Like people coming from the cracks with the roaches and making it all the way up to the top with the birds. So there's no excuse. You got like every race is people coming from nothing to something. So it's just up to yourself and your initiative. I don't feel like the race thing should be a blocker right now. That's not an excuse.
Okay, what about you, Dominic?
Like you were saying, I don't think it's like really a block. I think everything is really leveled, like for opportunity wise. You just have to get out the mindset that there is a lot. Like, oh, I hear a lot of people say, like, when young, they're like, the white man don't want me to do this, or the white man don't want me to do that. Actually, that's like a mental thing nowadays, because everybody has equal opportunity. You just have to have the mindset that I'm going to succeed in life, and have the push that, okay, I'm gonna do this for me. Ain't nobody gonna stop me. If you have that mindset, you can get to wherever you want to go.
Most definitely. What about you, Brian? What do you think?
I really believe and agree with what he was saying, but it's like a trick in Black America and Brown America's head right now that the white man is trying to keep me down.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to sell these drugs or I have to make some other way of living because he's not going to let me go up the corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to go up the drug ladder, whatever, be a rapper or whatever, because I'm not going to be able to be a businessman or a doctor or whatever because the white man is trying to get me. I believe that that way of thinking is really still, you know, current right now. I think it needs to change.
Okay, well, I want to turn the discussion from opportunities to the prosecution. It's no big secret that jail cells are being filled with black men daily. There was a study done in December of 2005, and it said for every 100, there were 2.2 million people in America in prison. Of that 2.2 million, of every 100,000, over 2,000 were black men.
Of every 100,000?
Of every 100,000. But as opposed to every white man, which was 708. So if you look at those numbers, just by those pure numbers, all right, that's 3 times as many black men as white men in jail. Do you think that because it's said a lot that, you know, the black man is persecuted, you know, first and foremost. Do you think, you know, that blacks are persecuted differently, or do you think that it's just that blacks are putting themselves in more chances to be arrested?
Honestly, I think it all boils down to situations. Like, the average black person is facing a situation with some lesser opportunity, like coming up, you don't have as much options available through your family, you know what I'm saying? So the things that they resort to doing is like kind of more heinous, or I'll say they carry more time than things that white Americans resort to doing. And you know what I'm saying, the stuff that black people get locked up for, or brown people or whatever, it's like, I don't know, it's usually like a result of not having much. So you will go a little bit further, and when you got less, you think less, you react more. So a lot of the crimes are reactionary to this situation. Whereas you was living in a comfortable situation and you did this or did that, it was different. You wouldn't be doing these certain things. And at the same time, you go to court. I don't know, it might be a good old boy system or whatever that plan to have more black males incarcerated or whatever. But I mean, inside the courtroom, it goes down. Like, people getting hit with big time for big crimes, and it seems like all the big crimes get committed by black people. So, I mean, if you do the math, you do the crime, you go to jail. It don't matter what color you is, you're going to jail if you get caught. But in a courtroom, maybe it might be a disparity in the time given, but at the same time, I don't know, I guess. I don't know, man.
Okay. Well, Dominic, let me ask you this. I knew when you were in school you had some issues. I knew you as a high schooler. I've gotten to see you grow up, and I'm very proud of that. But the dropout rate for black males in America has really gone up. It's risen. Actually, the dropout rate total is really awful. But it's worsening the most with black males. Black females actually went down dramatically in the last few years, but black males, for some reason, we're I don't know what's going on. What is going on in schools that is causing black males to not graduate? What do you think?
Well, I think it's more of like well, in certain situations, it could be like like black men get frustrated with like school. Like, they think, okay, well, this is not for me. I'm not gonna go to college. I'm not meant to go to college, so I'm just gonna drop out, get a 9 to 5, or get a trade or something like that, because they feel like they're not up for the challenge, so they just drop out. I'm like, okay, well, the white America's not gonna accept me anyway, so they just like, they set themselves down, or they don't give themselves a chance to be able to succeed in life, so they just like say, okay, well, I'm just drop out.
So you just think that there's just a sense of hopelessness?
Right.
A sense of hopelessness.
And,
okay.
and sometimes in certain situations it can be family. Certain families not supporting the child as if and like, I don't know, well, some males think that, okay, well, my family's not making enough money here, so I have to drop out of school
And support my
and
family.
support my family.
Mhm.
And you know, people look upon it as like, okay, he's dumb or he's not smart, but he's like actually trying to think for ahead of his family. He doesn't want his mom to struggle or his grandma or somebody, so he's trying to provide for them. And if I think if he or she had a better situation, they will be able to succeed and focus more on school and their education, and not think about, okay, well, I have to support this, or I can't pay for this, or I have to do this, or so I think if kids had a better living situation, they'll be able to focus more on education.
Okay. Now, Brian, I want to turn the discussion to, I want to keep it on this generation of student and this generation of young person. And I want to think more on the lines of the industry, the music industry. Do you think this whole bling bling era of people, wanting to look like they have before they actually can afford has changed the mindset of the youth to think that maybe school's not the way and I should just be working or I should just be selling drugs? Do you think that has something to do with it?
Well, when you're sitting there and you're a teenager and you're watching BET or whatever all day, all these music videos, and you got all these rappers saying, I have this many cars and I have this, and mostly in the lyrics they're talking about selling drugs to get that. And this, so it's like, why do I want to put myself into education and try to climb the ladder the hard way when I can go as fast as he did, be on BET in a couple of weeks, with all his cars and all his cash. Plus, it's like you got to realize the father's not there. Sometimes, like he was talking about, the father's not going to be there for him. He's out somewhere, trying to come up quick like everybody else. We don't have a real structured family unit anymore in these times. So they're watching people in the music industry come up fast and they're trying to be just like them. And nobody in the music industry right now is saying, go to school, go to college before you try to be a rapper or whatever.
Right.
You can be a rapper, but have that education behind it. Nobody's saying that right now.
Very good point. Very good point. You brought up a very good point as far as the fathers not being there. I think as a father, of 5, I take pride in the fact that I have a father, that I am a father, and I saw a lot of people grow up without fathers. I want to touch on that and see how that, what that, how it affects a person mentally. Ricardo, I want to talk to you and let me know, as far as your growing up, what did that do, for you as far as your way of thinking when you were coming up without a father?
I mean, I guess I kind of searched for a father, and I really had no example to look to as to what kind of father I wanted, so I guess I just gravitated to whatever I saw, which was, I don't know, some nobody. I think it had a lot to do with the kind of person that I hung out with, you know what I'm saying? Trying to find a father or chasing. I don't know if I was really chasing a father or someone who I could look out to in that light or whatever, because everybody who I hung with was on age with me for the most part. So I don't know, I guess it might have had something to do with what I was doing, because I mean, a father ain't gonna let you do certain things. He'll place limitations on certain things, and like when we was growing up, we had like certain homeboys who had just a stepfather like Juice.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying, look, the
Yeah.
difference, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, it was like, it stopped me from doing a whole lot of things, you know what I'm saying? So maybe everything would have been different if my father was in the picture, or maybe it could still end up the same way. There's no telling, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I most definitely think that, single mothers do the best job that they possibly can. But I think that God created us the way He did for a reason, and He created, husband and wife for a reason. I think the children are better served when there are parents, or when there are two parents around. Of course, there are certain situations where single mothers have been able to carry the full load and, keep their child out of whatever. But most single parents, gotta work. They're being mom and dad. They gotta cook. They gotta clean. They gotta do all of this, and they gotta make sure that everything is done. And it's very hard to do all of that and keep your child out of trouble. That's why you're better served having two parents, in my opinion. Now, I may be wrong, and maybe some parents out there watching this saying, he's absolutely wrong. There's no, I don't need a man in my life, or I don't need a woman in my life to raise this child. But I think the children are better served, and I think statistics prove that. Before the early 80s, when crack hit really hard, there were more families with two parents in the home. Statistics prove it. If you want to look it up, you can. And children graduated from high school more. Children had more education, more manners, and they had more job skills because of the fact that they had that. And once crack hit really hard, in the early to mid 80s, the fathers started disappearing from the homes. And these mothers started growing up, raising these children thinking, well, I had to do this on my own. And they're teaching these, young ladies that I don't need a man in my life to raise this child. And I think that's the wrong answer for the future. I think in order for us to grow as a people, and that's any race, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Puerto Ricans are Hispanic, but, any race, I think that you need those parents in the home. You at least need to have an understanding. If you can't make it work with the mom and dad, that no matter what, we need to be around for each other. I can't abandon this child and leave him on his own. That's one thing that I think that Black America's gotten extremely wrong in a lot of cases. Of course, there are a lot of fathers that stay around. For the vast majority, most fathers stay around. But there are some fathers that don't. There are some fathers that don't stay around, and it does send you to look for something that you should have. As a child, you should have a father in your life. I want to ask y'all another question. Do you think that the world's a better place right now than it was right before Martin Luther King before he passed? So that'd be April 3rd, 1968. Do you think today the world's a better place than it was then?
There's more advanced. It has more opportunities. Yeah, I would say it's a better place. I would.
Okay. Socially, do you think it's a better place, Dominic?
In certain aspects, I think it's a better place, but then in certain, I think it's kind of fell off. Like, I think America, not just Black America or White America, I think America as a whole needs to take the heed to, like, if there isn't a father figure in the home, to just what's the saying? Takes a village to raise a child.
Right. Everybody
I think
pitch
if
in.
America had that mentality, that we will be a better place. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this mother is slacking, I'll help her out. I'm able to. She's at work. I'm gonna help her out because I have extra time. And if we worked on a unity thing more, America would be so much better. And like, you would see a change in kids wanting to graduate because, okay, I don't feel the stress because my mom's not here and I have to raise my brothers, or I have to do this for my brothers or my sisters or my family. If America just unify each other.
Okay. What about you, Brian?
As far as technology goes, it's a better place, but as far as like socially and everything, I don't really think it's a better place, because I think the war has changed now. Because the war back then was black versus white, and the war now is black on black, brown on brown, and so much death. I mean, Chicago is like basically becoming a war zone right now, and it's black on black. Martin Luther King, stood for everybody loving each other, non-violence, everybody be equal, let's love each other, let's try to do better. And I don't really see that going on right now. I see everybody going at war with each other, just trying to climb a ladder, trying to get higher, trying to get some more money. I can go with a quote right now that I wrote down. He said, this is from a speech in St. Louis, Missouri, March 22nd, 1964. He said, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish as fools." I don't really think that Black and brown America, or America itself, sees each other as brothers. Everyone sees each other as the enemy. I have to get this before he does.
Right.
So
that's a very good point.
I just think that's where it's at right now. So I just hope that we don't perish as fools. I hope we can soon realize that we're all brothers.
Right. And I also think that we can't accept ignorance as the way. We can't accept that as the way that things should be. There's a lot of ignorance that's out there, whether it's music or it's television or it's certain TV channels or whatever. I think that the world has been dumbed down a certain extent. It used to be that people had to read in order to have opinions. Now everybody has an opinion. You can pick up a computer. I mean, right now, we got a camera. We're putting our opinions on TV, on the internet, just because we have a camera and the internet. And imagine if somebody, a kid, what if we were talking a whole lot of ignorance, and a kid turns this on, and we got guns out, we got a pile of cocaine sitting on the table, and we're sitting there talking, and a kid's gonna turn that on, and they're gonna say, "Oh man, they living that life," I think that we have to read up. We need to educate ourselves so we can educate our youth. If we don't educate our youth, then our youth is gonna turn on YouTube and see these guys with these guns and this cocaine and think that's what there is to aspire for. there's so much more to aspire for than just being a rapper or just being a ball player. You know, there are scientists in the world. There are doctors. There's lawyers. There's chemists. There's, so many jobs. Pilots. I mean, jobs you can make 6 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures if you put your mind to it and make it happen. I think all of you have said, the opportunities are there. The opportunities are there. America didn't become less of an opportunistic country, in the last 30 years. It's just that at some point, minds got narrowed.
That goes back to the family thing too. The child is left alone with the television, and it's like if they turn it to a certain channel, and like you said, they see the cocaine pile on the table, they see the stacks of money everywhere. They keep watching that every day. Watching that every day, they're gonna start to think, this is the way that I need to live. Put down these books. I need to start chasing this stuff.
Most definitely.
So there needs to be a better family structure out there.
Yeah. So it all starts with family.
Yeah,
so that's most definitely a good point. I want to answer in with this last question. The progress that was made by the civil rights movement. What do you think needs to be done in order to continue that progress? Now I know you all said unity, but I mean in infrastructure. Do you think that there's something maybe that the government could do, or some kind of revolution that needs to happen within society that can improve on the works that was already started, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, even Emmett Till to a certain degree, those things. What do you think needs to happen in order for us to keep moving forward?
I mean, honestly, I can honestly say I don't feel like. I feel like that's something that we should memorialize right now, because honestly, America is not perfect, but this is a place where, like I said, it's a land of opportunity, and being that this is a land of opportunity, that should improve that everything that all our civil rights leaders fought for, died for, and cried for every day of their lives, it did something. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like the fact that some people think that we got to keep on this civil rights fight and everything, because we already got all rights stuff. It's equal rights. So you know what I'm saying? There's no such thing as a law against black people anymore.
Right.
There's no such laws against Indians no more. There's no limits. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, they got stuff in place right now to give us more of an opportunity. So I feel like the best thing we can do now is capitalize on the opportunity that we have. That's the best thing we can do for civil rights, instead of worrying about what happened in the past. Is capitalizing on what we can do because of what they did.
Okay. What about you, Dominic?
I think that we should take the method that they use in the civil rights movement and put it more towards education, because a lot of the youth don't know about the opportunities that they do have. So like we're saying, like, okay, there's all these jobs, but they don't know about it. So they think that, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to be this singer or this basketball player. But there's also a lot of opportunities like in education. America doesn't really put education in the forefront. It's like kind of in the back, like it's secondary, when it should be like the first thing.
Right.
So I think if we put education up front and say, okay, well, if you go to school, you can get this, you can get that, you can get that, and make education like a necessity, and not like, okay, it's just an opportunity. You can go to school if you want to, or you can't. I mean, like, I think that's what the problem is. Everybody has a choice of whether they want to go to school. They should make that a necessity, because back then, in order to get to a certain place, you had to go to school. They looked at it like, I have to learn this if I want to be this person.
Right.
You have to be smart. Like, so I think if America just puts education first, then a lot of the problems will be solved, as well as parents not letting the TV or the television raise their kids, because we're like in an era where everybody can just go, if they need to learn something, they'll go to YouTube, or they'll go to the TV. And the parents would just say, okay, cut that off, let me talk to you. And because the television, internet is really raising our kids nowadays, so you can't really say, well, oh, I did this or I'm doing that, like, because I learned a lot of stuff from watching YouTube or watching TV, because we don't have the family dinners, or we don't sit down and talk with our kids after school. What did you learn today in school? Interact with your kids, and that will really make a difference, in a little difference. Change stuff, make a difference, but that's my opinion.
All right, what about you, Brian?
I don't really think it's about changing the system. I think it's about changing the way we're moving as a people, as far as what's going on inside the communities. On reservations, you got all the fathers and people in the reservations, they just take to the alcohol, and not really about moving forward or making a change for Native Americans. They are just drowning themselves in alcohol, trying to forget what happened. And Black America in the ghettos. You got everybody trying to just sell drugs, be in gang violence, all that stuff like that. We need to change how we're moving as a people.
Mm-hmm.
Try to move more towards the positive, more towards what we can do now that we have all these rights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We can do a lot now that we have all these rights. We can really move forward, but it's like people are just in this mindset that they don't want to because they don't think they can. So just change the people, not the system.
Okay. Well, um, I'm thinking back on the first question that I asked. Martin Luther King. What did he mean to me? Y'all used a great word, unity. He was all about everybody being together. He said, I have a dream that one day all children, he said, black men and white men, Romans and Catholics, everybody will be together. You know, and that the world wouldn't be viewed through color. The world be viewed through the person and the things that they believed in and what they're willing to stand up for. And when I think, and also I think about the fact that he died for his dream. He died literally. He's one of the last martyrs that we've had. You know, when you think about people, there's nobody right now willing to die for what they believe in. There's very few people. There's people say, you know, I believe, and they don't sit on Fox News or they'll sit on CNN and they'll say, I believe this strongly. But if there's somebody put a gun to their head and say, do you believe that? They would change their mind with a snap of a finger. Before you can say up jumps the boogie, they'll change their mind already. Like really. And that's what we need. We need leaders. But we can't sit and wait for leaders. We have to become the leaders. And I think that that's what this whole show is about. This show is about having discussions that need to be had, opening doors that need to be opened, and opening minds that have been closed entirely too long. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and all your comments and your thoughts on this topic. This discussion most definitely should be had, not only on Martin Luther King Day weekend, but throughout the year. We here at Real Talk with ReZsaun would like to extend this conversation out to our viewers and encourage everyone to leave all comments and questions for the panel in the comments section. You can also email us at realtalkwithrezsaun@gmail.com. We will read your questions on air, and some of them will be answered. Before I go, I want to give each guy an opportunity to, put out anything that they need to get out as far as if you want to contact them, if you want to send them questions, if you want to send comments. Like I said, Mr. Ricardo Lewis here, he is Mr. Blazing Cuts. He does some of the best haircuts in the city, if not the state, if not the country. So if you want to get in touch with him, how did they get you?
You can reach me on Facebook at Ricardo Blazing Cuts Lewis. Email me at blazingcutsmovement@gmail.com or ReZsaun's@gmail.com. That's RACHIANO. Ricardo Blazing Cuts Lewis. RECARLO. Phone number 843-534-6857.
All right. And what about you, Dominic? I know you have some projects that you're working on. What do you want to tell the people?
I'm Raji. If you want to reach me, you can hit me up on Facebook. That's Dominic Raji. That's RAHJAHEE. Or on YouTube. I'm singing on YouTube and talking on YouTube and just entertaining people. That's youtube.com/Raji. If you want to hit me up, email me. It's rajimusic@gmail.com.
Okay. And Brian, I know you have poetry that's out there. We're going to get some of your stuff published really, really soon. So, we got big things in the works right now. Me and you've been talking. Well, how can they contact you if they need to get you?
If anybody wants to contact me, the email is busyBone, BIZZYBONE 9886 @yahoo.com. I'm going to try to be performing at the Hourglass downtown sometime soon on Thursdays, so look for that coming, and me and this man are going to be putting in a lot of work soon.
Most definitely, most definitely. Well, that concludes the show for this week. Thank you for watching, and be sure to tune in next week where we could be discussing any number of topics from the upcoming Super Bowl to the state of hip-hop music in America. So don't be the one left out because you didn't tune in. In honor of all the civil rights leaders and of those of all races who supported the movement, we will leave you with the singing of the Black National Anthem, sung by Charleston's very own Jay Slim. In closing, always remember, if a man doesn't stand for something, he will fall for anything. Now that's real talk. See you next week.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies unity. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rise